checking before the show even starts. Look at this. I'm just gonna chit-chat my way into it. And hey there, everybody is. Hi, welcome. Happy Friday. Um, Look, all right. Welcome, and may I say goddamn. Um, I don't usually like to start the show off gloating. I don't like to do that. I love to do that. Can I can I just say for the record that wait, can we all just go back to the wailing and gnashing of teeth about the debt ceiling that has been going on for the last month? And I've told you many times. I was like, will you please just relax? Because it isn't going to happen. There's like the possible default in the wailing and the gnashing of teeth and the rending of garments. And honest to God, and was there anybody else? I would love to know them because I would love to talk to them personally. That was like, I don't know what the fuck you guys are wailing about. This is gonna be fine. They're not gonna let this happen. You nuts? You think they're gonna let the Freedom Caucasians wreck the entire goddamn economy? Of course they're not. Uh, so I just said I said it a bunch of times. I said it a bunch of times, and on and the interesting thing to me is that there's some fascinating aspects of the deal, and we're going to get to it this morning because it's already headed to Biden's desk for his signature. It's going to happen. It's just happening. It's going to happen. It's going to fucking happen. It's done. It's fucking done. Okay. Simmer. Now I know some of you. Oh no. If I tell you to simmer, you can afford to simmer. You can go, all right, Hal told us we're going to be good. If I tell you to worry about something, I will never tell you to worry about something without telling you some things you can do to mitigate actual material damage. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to give you a goddamn hurricane warning without giving you exits and advice on how to deal with the hurricane. You know what I mean? Because that's just stupid. There's a hurricane coming. Ah! What am I supposed to do? Just, I don't know, stand in your yard and like, that's what most people do. That's effectively the economic sources that I look at these days, like Bloomberg, CNBC, pro and con, all oh. Now, some of them are doing it because they genuinely believe it because they're stupid, but some of them are also doing it because they're like, hey, if I can panic enough people, they'll bail out of the fucking market or lose interest, and I can scoop up their stocks because they're too stupid to push back. Anyways, what do you having? Welcome, gather round. I'll wait for the chat to build up a little bit because, it's morning somewhere. I'm having coffee. This morning I'm having bulletproof coffee with an extra dollop of heavy whipping cream in it. Not whipped cream, not sweet, just the precursor. Clearly, Hal hates being right. All right, and by the way, hi chat room, love you guys, welcome. I did call it, and I look. I take pride in being right about these things, not because of like dunking rights, and you guys know this, but because it's yet further. It's another further example of that I'm not wasting your fucking time with my show. That matters to me. It matters to me that I'm not wasting your goddamn time. Right? That because I have to admit that if I felt that I was giving, that I called something. Oh, thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for the super chat. By the way, like, subscribe, thumbs up, all the YouTube stuff and Twitch things that I'm supposed to say. Presume them said. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Do those things, help the show. If I just started, I could start a being right tax and probably fund the whole show. You enhanced my goddamn time. That's what I'm trying to do, Margaret. I'm dead serious. That's what the point of this show was when I started it, and it's as an ongoing thing. I would feel like shit if we'll get to the jobs report. Celery, because oh god, the grinding on the right today, just the teeth grinding is going to be so good. There's not a single like right winger in Congress or the Senate that's not going to have again sleepless weekend. It just, oh, damn it. Um, uh, but the point is that I want to legitimately convey, you know, genuine ideas and good natured thought to you, and you know, awareness of the opposite argument and what they're talking about. Areas even where they have a point, but because you can be right about the problem but wrong about the solution. I find that tends to be on the right, the biggest issue they have. Um, and certainly we can as well. So I would like to go, hey, here's another idea that might work and will solve the problem because we agree there needs to be a solution. And oh boy, woo, this morning. Oh shit. Okay, first of all, should we just jump right into this one? I just thought this was great. May jobs report, US job growth jumps. Labor market continued to show resilience. I love how they fucking frame it, resilience. Why won't it die? Is basically what they're saying. Adding many more jobs than expected, despite efforts by the Federal Reserve to cool the economy. Because I'm telling you, we don't have monetary inflation. We have supply shock issues. That's what's causing the rise in prices. Not and like chasing unemployment as a way of making sure that, like, I don't get it. I don't know why they think it's fucking 1920 or 1820 for that fucking matter. The United States, especially our economy, is not an island. It's not isolated. So much of our stock market and so many of our companies are intertwined with other companies and other investors all over the fucking world that you can choke the shit out of the American workforce and the American worker, and still they're going to produce because they're producing for the rest of the world. It's weird. It's this gated community horse shit that the Trumpies of the world, and to some degree, I suppose the people that work in the Fed, that they just kind of go like, I don't know, that doesn't happen in my neighborhood. Oh, all I see is everyone I see having a wonderful time eating lovely dinners and driving wonderful cars. And then on television, I see tent cities everywhere. And I don't realize that the vast majority of the country is well within the middle of that. If not, by the way, a huge bell curve that involves the vast majority. There are like this many super rich people and this many super poor people. And the vast majority of people, we have an enormous middle class. We just differ on what the definition is. And it's growing all the time. And by the way, obviously our middle class, which, again, the standards roll all over the place and adjusted for inflation, blah 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 blah. But the vast majority of people who do make a living wage at what they do, they do put their kids through college or extended education. They have a car and a phone and all that kind of stuff that they're able to pay and on the regular. And anytime there's not a 2008 that's fucked up their entire financial picture, they do all right. If you just don't pull the rug out from under them financially. There are more of those people in the United States. There are more people living on less than $3 a day. There's 3 times as many people living less than $3 a day in China than there are American people in the middle class. So every time you're like, there's the middle class is shrinking or small or whatever, compared to people who live spoonful. You're talking about paycheck to paycheck, spoonful to spoonful. 3 times the number of people. Okay, so let's get on with this part. U.S. employers add 339,000 jobs. Remember all that shit where on like Bloomberg and all these other places, like, well, they've moderated. It's slowing, but it's the job growth is slowing more than it was slowing when it was not quite slowing. It's so weird. Yeah, here you go. 339,000 jobs. Job growth jumped in May, reaffirming the labor market's vigor despite a swirl of economic headwinds. U.S. employers added 339,000 jobs on a seasonally adjusted basis. Friday, an increase from the revised total of 294. That's just like dunking on that shit. President Biden hailed the jobs report on Friday, saying in a statement that today is a good day for the American economy and American workers. He said the report brings the total number of jobs created while he was president to 13 million. President Biden also said, our country's going to hell. I just need to cut to that Trump face every time this happens. Our country is going to hell. Everybody's working. People are going to like NASCAR again. This sucks. How am I supposed? And I'm talking to like 9 people in a Denny's. Biden said in his statement that he plans to sign the debt ceiling legislation the past Thursday night. By the way, can I just say, these jobs that were added, this 339,000 jobs, if you recall, all of fucking May, the discussion was, oh, fuck, debt ceiling crash, destruction. We're going, oh, God, it's the, and they're going to do it, and the brinks, and we're going to, full faith and credit, we're going to die. And, you know, all those jobs were added during that period of time. I like you like my new my new panic character. Oh, I'm just gonna do that every so often. Why not? Let's see. How can job growth accelerate while the unemployment rate rises? Because people enter the market. Yeah, 2 figures come from different surveys. One of businesses, monthly payroll figure. That's how you know how many people have been hired, because companies tell you how many employees they have because they get a tax break, and they have to file taxes based on the number of employees that they have. It's like nobody knows how many people have died of fentanyl. Some people think it's 4 times. They're just, if you die of fentanyl, they don't even give you a funeral. They just shovel you into a pit and lie about it. It's like, we know, we keep track of shit. And one of households, the source of the unemployment rate. Over time, the two typically tell consistent stories, but they can diverge in any given month. Often that divergence is nothing more than noise, but sometimes it reflects something real happening in the economy. That's because 2 surveys measure different things. Survey of households, for example, includes gig workers, other people doing non-traditional jobs that aren't counted in the business survey, Etsy, Uber, running weed to Dave's house in the trunk of your car, which includes gig workers. We'll just call them gig workers. Why not? Independent contractors and some small businesses fell by 369, the 3rd straight monthly decrease. Looking for just at people working in more traditional jobs, unemployment rose in both surveys. There she is. Investors are welcoming the latest jobs numbers. The S&P 500 rose 0.8%, which is really fucking weird. Because you want to talk about a divergence economically that we've had for a very long time. And we've discussed many times how the stock market is not the economy, but because of the number of retail investors, people who are taking a bit of their because savings hasn't meant shit for a long time. Now it's starting to come back, but savings almost the return on a savings account, you almost need a shit ton of money to sit on to make anything worth, possibly squeezing out 2-3%, maybe, right? But the stock market, even index funds, even with the huge dips, you can project on maybe 8% minimum or something like that. It's actually probably higher, but you know what I'm talking about. That there was a divergence in this because you had institutions and countries and big like pension funds and stuff investing in the stock market, and so that's driving the stock market up. At the same time, companies increase their bottom line and their profits by maybe firing workers or automating shit or whatever. And so there's a natural financial divergence in some of that because the health of a company, if they're hiring people are like, I don't know if this expansion thing's going to work. And they'll tend to sell the stock and, because they need the money to buy the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. So, there is, because of retail investors, it's starting to align because retail investors, which is, I find fucking fascinating. There's almost as many meme stock holders as the Saudis once had in our stock market by volume. You remember how much fucking like control over our economy the Saudis had for a good long while, because they literally were like, we're rich and we're tiny, so we could just pull our $1 trillion out and sit on it for a little while, invest it elsewhere, real estate or whatever shit we want to. So if you fuck with us, we're just gonna anybody who takes that amount of money out of the stock market in one fell swoop will cause a crash. So we can cause a crash and it's no skin off our nose. As a matter of fact, that's part of the strategy. They did that for a long time. Now that doesn't matter because retail investors, if the Saudis started to get out, it would be news by 13 seconds later and everybody like, oh shit. and they just buy up what was there. They might wait for it to dip down a little bit because of, bots and software that tend to, freak out when they, the couple of times we've had to like freeze the stock market because a buying and selling bot just got up, out over its skis. But for the most part, people would go, "All right, I'll take that. Sure." There's enough buyers. There didn't used to be. Um, which again also points to the aspect of you know inflation, monetary inflation, which is, it's supply and demand of goods. People have more money, there's too much money in circulation, that concept, versus standard supply and demand caused by limited supply chains, or the modification of supply chains, which is a big part of our life now, and it will be going forward. And nothing's going to change that. No amount of monetary policy from the fucking Fed is going to change how long it takes to move a factory out of China to Singapore or Czechoslovakia or Mexico or any of that shit, or even back to the United States. It takes what it takes. There's certain shit happens in the physical world, and you just can't jump the line. So here we go. Services continue to add jobs at a quick clip while goods sectors stall. Retail did add, it's interesting. Manufacturing is down 2,000, which was already having a giant boost. And manufacturing, by the way, will, with both AI and automation, will, be modulating this stuff. But instead of, used to be the old things like we could automate, we put out 100 widgets, whatever it is. And now we need 100 workers to make 100 widgets. And then it turns out if we automate part of it, we only need 90 workers to turn out 100 widgets. We'll fire 10 people and continue to produce 100 widgets. Now, because of the desire for an EU, North American alliance of goods, why would you lower production and output? You just keep your people, and automation adds to them. So like every worker has an automation pilot addendum to them, as opposed to like car factories in the fucking 70s where they could take welding teams off because the machine now welds it for you. Um, Also dangerous jobs that nobody should be near, that kind of shit in the first place if they don't absolutely have to be. So I find this fucking fascinating, all of this stuff. Education and health added 97,000 jobs. That's that's as maybe. Business services 64,000, government 56,000, not even in the, like it's in the top 3 certainly. And a lot of that is, I'm going to, infrastructure being what it is, there's going to be a lot of inspector general level jobs, guys with clipboards having to make sure that, your tax dollars are spent like they're supposed to be. Leisure and hospitality. Leisure. There, there are certain words where I will stick to the Americanized pronunciation of them. Leisure, for is not one of them, because I can only think of Leisure Suit Larry and leisure suits in general. Everywhere else, it's leisure. hmm Ride with me for my pleasure, at your leisure. I don't know why I'm doing Red Dragon lines. Anyways, construction, 25,000 plus. That's on top of enormous ones already. Again, watch that be consistent. It'll be like they're going to stack up in a lot of there's going to be this weird offset by infrastructure, commercial real estate, because commercial real estate's apparently taking a giant shit in certain areas, but they're building it all around us. So I don't know what the fuck. It's hard to get a grasp of it. Here you go. The share of people in their prime working years, 25 to 54. Jesus Christ, I've only got one more year of prime working year. Fuck you. I'm just getting into my prime. God damn it. Participating in the labor market reached 83.4% in May, a level not seen since 2007. When the Bush administration and Hank Paulson and all those folks were like, well, we have to fuck with this. They believed that idea of monetary inflation because it was, a pre reshoring of factories. It was meaningful. So that was, that if you had inflation, or prices were going up in a certain area like fuel, largely it had to do with people having money in their pocket, and we can't have that because they'll spend it all here and drive our prices up, and then the U.S. dollar will become the yen. Except because of the availability of shit from all over the world and the functioning of the U.S. economy, you can actually still get that shit. You're not an isolated environment in the early 90s, pre-internet. Like it's like I don't get it. I don't get it. Why do these motherfuckers want to pretend like COVID never happened, the internet doesn't exist, and monetary policy that was driven by people actually having to carry like duffel bags of cash in person to places that translates to how we live now. It's so weird to me. Stock market's edging higher in response to the bumper jobs gains. The numbers show conflicting signals with an uptick in unemployment rate alongside. It's not conflicting. Investors have added bets on the Fed raising interest rates in June. Still, bets remain skewed towards the central bank holding rates at the current level in a range between 5 and 5.25%. Even that's not going to make a measurable difference in people taking out gigantic loans, 0.25%, because in the term of the loan, you're gonna factor in that. We could not take the loan out and do the thing because it's 5.25%, or we could assume that at some point they're going to have to lower it to moderate against the economy, and factor in that like 10 years of the loan will be this, 20 years after that, the next 25 years of the loan will be at 4%. And so it moderates out at that level. It's a long-term fucking loan, man. It's not I don't get it. These people acting like giant pieces of property or developments and stuff aren't going to moderate over time. It's just weird. However, digging a little deeper shows the average stock in the index has only nudged higher this year, with concern over the health of the economy weighing on the broader market. Yeah, that's what I was saying. In May, everybody was like, they're going to destroy the economy. It's not worrying about the economy. Americans are busting their ass like usual, working hard, doing their thing, getting up every day, going to work. Like, productivity is up. Like, it's normal. People are trying to stabilize after fucking 3 big swipes in a row, 9/11, 2008, and COVID. And it's going to take time, but everybody's doing it. Let me check on make sure that I'm not totally leaving the chat behind in my, I get caught and you guys are talking about polyester suits. That's how it happens. Yeah, damn right you are. That's right. How we looked at the Russian economy lately. Can we maybe do an update on sanctions effects? Absolutely, Tim. I talked about it on Wednesday a little bit with Phil, but yeah, it's ass. Like Tildeer did a fucking breakdown of it, and it was kind of like right about the time I was diving into the Chinese economic numbers, which are just horrifying. Way worse than anybody thought. Way worse. Just, it's bad. They're not even the number 2 economy. They might be number 6 at this point, just slightly above Japan, 2 steps ahead of California by itself. Thanks, Celery. Okay, good. You're with me? Okay, excellent. Way worse. That's funny, Lucius. So here we go. The labor market's still running hot. Economy has remained buoyant even as recession forecasts have persisted because people on both extremes of the political parties they want a recession to run on. They don't have anything else to go after Joe Biden on there except the economy. They want the economy to tank so they can go, see, I told you so. My way's better. And that's why the recession forecasts have been so persistent. A couple of people have brought them up on the regular because, again, they're looking at monetary policy versus the reality of supply chains and post-COVID economic figures. But I gotta say, like, it ain't happening. Both sides are, the extremes of both sides are like, why is this working? I fucking hate you. And believe me, I'm going to irritate some of the people in the chat with one of the stories that came up if the GOP and the right wing were positive, would they have jobs? Right. Well, that's the thing is it kind of goes, they're in a bit of a bind Because like when Trump says, the country's going to hell and everything's to shit, and then you walk outside and it's like it's not half bad right now. We definitely have some problems, as any advanced society will. We got to keep working at it. It's constant gardening, man. Yeah, but the constant hammering at the recession fear is hold on. Fuck, you want to see something? Hold on, let me bring this up. I'll give you a great example of just the absolute, like the economic strategy of some of these fuckers. There you go. I'll go to videos. I've looked at this dickhead before. And I'm going to show you something in a second. Jesus. I used to watch this channel a while back because it was sort of more simple, like stock advice and that kind of stuff. It was like day trader shit. And I was like, I don't get what the fuck day trading is bullshit to me. It seems like it's like it's like the Richard Pryor heist in Superman 4, right? Where he was like, if you just take there's little pennies that they don't even notice, and if you get all those, it's like $1 billion. And so I have stolen $1 billion worth of eighth of a penny over time, and he comes up with this computer program that does it's genius, and we always like that. Well, that's what day traders are to me. Like, I don't give a fuck about these companies, but it varies enough where I can watch what's happening, where people are trending towards it and away from it, and I'll just bet for and against it, puts and option trading and whatever. Like, it's just has nothing to do with the value of the company, what the workers are doing, the quality of the product or lack thereof. I just find it shitty. Anyways, check this guy out. Like this, if we want to talk about like somebody finding out like what side of the bread the butter is on. Look at this. This is 17 hours ago, 1 day ago, 3 days ago, 2 days ago, 4 days ago, 5 days ago. Everything is urgent. Everything is a fucking emergency. Every time, all the time. It's happening now. Be ready. Like, and then he comes in every time and is like, cue the fire. Everything's burning down. But if this was an anomaly where his channel has just trended this way lately because he's up on these things and he's paying attention, and therefore, but it doesn't. It's always this. This is dire. This is big. It has begun. Wiped out. He uses the phrase wiped out. Look at that. Like genuinely every month, he'll use wiped out 2-3 times. This is dire. This is dire. This is big. This is dire. This is big. The end. The end. Wiped out. This is dire. These are different videos. 4 months ago, 5 months ago, wiped out, desire, wiped out. Look at this, fucking wiped out within a week of each other. Everything was wiped. Cancel it, warning, it's chaos, wiped out, worse than Lehman. He says that all the time. End of the world. Look at this shit. This is 6 months ago. End of the world, prepare now, warning. Look at this. Xi Jinping and the Fed is on fire. Cancel it now. Crash of the century. This is very, very bad. Urgent news. Emergency is bad. No time. Wiped out. It's chaos. Look at this shit. He even had a trend of just fire. Like he's started AIing backgrounds. So, that's the shift. You see a lot of AI changing backgrounds lately because people are, using it to make stuff. Can't stop this. This is dire. Wiped out. Be ready. Much worse. Watch out. Be alarmed. Be alarmed. Watch China now. It's over. Here's another watch China now. Like, is he just posting the same fucking? Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. It's over. It's over. Big panic. See what I'm saying? Like, there's how they always. Good Lord. Balt Thanos. Thank you. Happy birthday to Judd. We don't know when her birthday is, but let's just say it's today. That's right. So June 2nd is now Chud's birthday. Sure. I'm for it. Stop both siding it? Both siding what? That guy, yeah. Well, he calls himself Johnny Bravo because he's got Johnny Bravo hair. Like he's like the cartoon character. So I think they told him to knock it off. So he's now J Bravo. Like his channel just says J Bravo instead of Johnny. But Look at this shit. I mean, it's like the Glenn Beck stuff we see all the time. Let me guess, commercial for survival food comes up next. No, he sells you a program that teaches you how to trade. That's it. And all of his videos have almost the exact same watch number, 52, 53,000. That's it. Everything. He's got this brick of people that watch it all the time. And I guess he sheds people as he picks them up, and it's the same shit. And he's basically got a window of where people are transitioning through their, believing that it's going to end, right? Is that Glenn Beck's son? Right. Yeah. It's, oh, God. Yeah, MLM. You think? I suppose. I mean, it's his own program. He's not selling someone else's. Although I think it's a single level marketing. Trade and panic. Right. Just, it's so weird. It's so and there's so much shit like that. You should get Pence dressed like Race Bannon to co-host. Let's all go to the mountain. Click buy, then click sell. Yeah. It's and we've looked at this before with all these guys who there's a lot of money in doom. Look at fucking Russell Brand, another great example. Brand has his brand now is he's a doom sprayer. And the great thing about it is, they talk about the biggest argument I think that atheists have about religion or their discussion about it is that it is unfalsifiable. You can't reason with something that you can't ever find the answer to. You can't materially do it. So it's always out there, amorphous in the background, and nobody can ever put a fucking flag in it and go, we found this, we found the pile of bullshit. We have officially identified the bullshit, right? You can't do it. It's unfalsifiable. The destruction of the system overall, which is what Russell Brand calls for or thinks is going to happen or wants to happen or says he wants to happen, because I don't actually think I don't believe that shit at all, is it'll never happen. It's like warning about a zombie apocalypse. It's like that. It's like a warning about a zombie, because it'll never happen. And then if it does happen, nobody's watching TV to go, that fucker was wrong. They're just too busy running from zombies. See what I'm saying? It's perfect. It is, yeah. TYT is not progressive. No, they are not. Because that requires progress. But we'll get to that in a minute. And by the way, well, I'm not going to get on another TYT diatribe. It's the stuff that's happening apparently with the alleged red pilling of Anna Kasparian is hilarious to watch as she starts saying things that I've said are just materially true over time, where I'll call something out and go, no, I understand what you mean, but this is not what's actually happening. And they'll whinge about it forever. And now she's coming around to going, actually, and I'm still the fucking bad guy. Right? It's like saying, being, I'm on a ladder and they're like, that ladder doesn't go anywhere. That's a ladder to nowhere. You are on a ladder to nowhere. And then they pass you on the ladder going up, see at the top. And I'm like, so this is no longer a ladder to nowhere, I guess. Hola, Benny Loco. Good morning. How are you? From the high desert, right? Away from keyboard working. Good for you. That's exactly what I'm saying. Look at the productivity of even our own Benny Loco. Was that Talking Heads? Joe Manchin pulled a stunt with an oil company that will displace Appalachians. We'll talk about that in a minute. Most of that is much ado about nothing. The Appalachians, you mean the people or the actual mountains themselves? But the people have been downriver from coal pollution for decades. Yeah. TYT is a centrist clickbait channel nowadays. They can go find the centrist clickbait. I don't know. I think to some degree, she's I think she's just having a moment. I don't think they haven't moved. If you look at the damage report and stuff, it's like, do you guys actually want shit to work? Ugh. Doesn't care about the people or the mountains. I disagree, Joe, with your assessment of Joe Manchin. I'll show you in a minute. Um, why didn't Democrats just raise the debt ceiling in December when they still controlled the House? It appeared because that's not how it works. Um, the idea, and by the way, if they wouldn't have had to, they had already budgeted for stuff. And to pass a we're going to raise the debt ceiling before it's necessary bill would have gotten held up by a senator. There would have been an anonymous hold. It would have, or somebody would have froze it in committee. They're trying to work around it. They're trying to do a lame duck raising of the debt ceiling. Right. That's what's just saying. Okay. And it's pretty. And wait, give me a second. Didn't you spell it with one N? But whatever. Because all bills will die with the new Congress. Exactly. But also because it only like Rand Paul would just put an anonymous hold on it, and that's that. Whereas if it has enough votes to pass on a broader level, they can get it through in committee, and everybody's worried about, okay, the populace wants it to happen. So there we go. The where are we? Oh yeah. So let me show you some of this shit. Okay. So this is the House and the Senate both passed the debt ceiling, and Biden's going to sign it today, and he's going to have a statement about it. And I just signed it, and we're done. He's not going to even have a. I would be surprised if they showed him signing it, doing like the Trump, like I may think on the paper. But yeah, so the bill would. This is the fascinating part. It would defer the federal debt limit for 2 years, suspending it, not raising it a certain amount. That's kind of fucking amazing. Now, the idea is that they know, all of them, that if they set a hard limit, because Kevin McCarthy has made this promise with to the Freedom Caucasians, that they that they will break up the omnibus into 12 appropriations bills. The problem with a freeze on, like an actual numeric freeze in that situation where you don't have the omnibus to argue, and then punt and move around, is that what happens is everybody wants their shit. Everybody knows that, red states especially get more federal funds than blue states do already. They borrow the taxes of the blue states to pay for, their bootstrapping, and so they need that money. And so, depending on where these appropriations fall during the course of the year, by the time you get to the last three, they're going to get short shrift. Well, if that's the defense budget, and you've set a material cap on the debt ceiling, where you're not negotiating all of them at once, you're negotiating them over time. Eventually, like, fuck, we've spent all that pleasing our constituents on the early appropriations bills, and now we got we got 4 more bills to do, and we don't have any. We're gonna have to pass a raise the debt limit thing again to get this through by our own standard. So the breaking up the omnibus into the appropriations bills is why we have this total deferral of the debt limit, because Republicans are aware of this. They know that they're going to run out of money. So, okay, allowing the government to borrow unlimited sums as necessary to pay its obligations. Yes, but also to, like they're supposed to pin growth at 1% and blah, blah, blah. Okay. By the way, based on a number that as inflation comes down was way higher than you would even need this year. So you could afford to you could even go negative and it really wouldn't have that big a material effect, because you had to raise the funding so high because of inflation, that as inflation comes, like, it's just silly. Again, these motherfuckers think that if you climb out of a 6-foot hole and you're 6 feet tall at the beginning of it, you're now 12 feet tall. It's so No. How tall are you? I'm 6 feet. And you were in a 6-foot hole? Yes. And you climbed out of the hole? Yes, I did. And how tall are you? I'm 12 feet tall now. Why? Well, because I grew 6 feet by climbing out of the hole, and I am 6 feet, and therefore 6 plus 6 equals 12. You are a silly person. All right. While imposing 2 years of spending caps and a string of policy changes that Republicans demand, in exchange for allowing the country to avoid a disastrous vote. 314 to 117. Never had a fucking chance, Freedom Caucus. And then 63 to 32 or whatever in the Senate. One Republican was away, funeral or something like that, birthday, whatever it was, for one of the bookends. He was away, couldn't vote. The Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and a couple of others voted against it. And that was part of the negotiation. Again, this is one of those things where we'll let you do your protest vote because it's not going to affect anything. If their vote was required to pass it, they would have passed it, which tells you that they are voting for it. They just need the political cover. This happens all the time. We'll give you political cover. You can yell at me and pretend to hate my guts and all that shit, and we'll have a kumbaya moment later, and I'm not worried about it. Time passes. Let's see. The deal would suspend 31.4 trillion borrowing limit until January 2025. It would cut federal spending by 1.5 trillion over a decade, which is like that's lower than Biden is already cutting with his deficit cuts. They're already meeting that target. Can you just, the fucking guy knows what he's doing. Jesus Christ. Okay. Which is considered a cut because we lower the level of inflation. The legislation would also impose stricter work requirements for food stamps. No, it didn't. They're not stricter. They raised the age 4 years into, by the way, the area of, the prime working age, right? To 54. They raised it to the prime working years edge. That's it. From 49, they raised it 5 years. From 49 to 54. Once you turn 55, you're clear, I guess. And also made exceptions for homeless. If you have children at home you have to take care of, or an elderly parent, if you're a veteran. There's like a bunch, all the carve-outs are there. Interestingly enough, it added 78,000 people now qualify for SNAP that didn't before. And it raised the budget for SNAP $2.1 billion. You guys know that, right? I already knew this was going in the, yes, he did. He absolutely did, Sujan. Biden should put a cap on gay hiring in the military, but not tell anyone the cap is like 350 million. Yeah, it's kind of, MAGA can't read. I can't read 99 pages in 3 days. Right. Well, the problem is there's a real issue. And this is, again, this has to do with the extremes of thought, that a lot of people are afraid to dive into some of this shit because they're afraid they will like what they hear. Not a lot of it, but enough. There's certain people who are like, I can't even cede this ground, which I know is true because I believe it gives ammunition to the other side, and therefore I can't even talk about that, which is just fucking silly. Because again, you can agree on the problem and not agree on the solution, or whether or not there needs to be one, or whether or not the other person agrees there needs to be one, that there's a problem, but it's a permanent problem. That's just how things are. Or, yeah, we can do something about it, or how much we should do is part of the conversation. That's governance. For fucking, I don't know why this is so hard. But anyways, it's common sense, folks. So there's a big element of this where they just refuse to read the documents or look at the argument from some side because they're afraid that they will, what if I get, what if I have to defend this one point and I talk to my crowd about it and I go, well, actually the statistic is this, or it's actually lower than that, or whatever. Like some of the shit I talk about when we talk about, climate and other issues, and how I'm like, you're not going to convince these people about climate. You got to talk to them in terms of pollution because they can't wrap their fucking head around the entire world being under anybody's control but the Lord's. So you just got to mitigate that and get them to deal with shit. Yeah, they'll become woke. Betsy, it's the same, woke or red pilled. This is the fear that what if I read a little bit of this and then suddenly they're right and then I'm gone, right? So I think I don't have that problem. I do not. I do not, because I'm not worried about the shifting ethics of what I want to do. I'm just looking to accomplish the best kind of circumstance for the most amount of people that I possibly can at any given time. And so nothing that does that is contrary to my ethic, right? Which is a problem the purists have, because especially if you're stuck in jargon world where you can only the only way to talk about this is within the jargon framework that we have set, maga, right? Or woke, that kind of shit. If you can only operate in that window, then you're never going to help the largest group of people. You're not going to. You are literally you're narrow casting all the time. So it's called a drumpf. So let's see. What they usually mean is that they haven't had enough time to coordinate their attacks on anything good in government. We didn't have time to read it. Right. Yeah, because and again, they might read it and go, "Look, there's a lot in this that works." Or if somebody brings it up, you know, um, brings up a part of it that they might, somebody who has read it brings up like, "Oh, this is actually pretty fucking good," right? This is, this part's solid. I'm glad we got that. They go, "Look, but yeah, but they bury down. There's a poison pill, for the other side. They like that, so that's why we hate it. Like that's enough. I don't want to read the fucking thing because the whole thing's it's just a way. Even the stuff we like is just a shoehorn to get in the shit we don't. Right? That's the defense, and it's silly, especially, especially when it goes to like especially when you're dealing with, how do I put this in the most comforting way possible, um especially if you're working to expand the influence of your words and ideas to a greater group of people, and you realize at some point that you have to speak their language to do it. And if you're surrounded only by people who say you can, are we close to nuclear war due to activities in Moscow? No, we're actually less close. According to all the assessments I've said, the chance of nuclear threat has gone down. Fear not. So if you have people around you like purity police making sure that you only say like and they have this problem with Trump, and you can't venture off the Trump farm for the ideas of what they consider MAGA or whatever they are in DeSantis and other people who are running. They're not even allowed to do that because you have to do fealty to Trump, right? You have to stay within that fucking barrier, but you're never going to accomplish that part because that's a shrinking barrier, or it has what is effectively a glass ceiling on it, which is what the what the Bernie Bros ran into, is that nationwide there's a 23 to 30%, depending on how you word what you're arguing about, ceiling on every idea that they're presenting, because 70% of people are going to dig in and they're not going to go, yeah, no, fuck that, because they're not sold on the idea, no matter how many ways you try to phrase it, right? And it literally is one of those situations where if you work for a public option that makes room for anybody who financially can't afford it, you effectively have universal health care. But unless you call it Medicare for all and it happens like that, it doesn't count, and fuck you, and you're trying to kill people and you don't care and all that. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So then that narrow focusing guarantees a limitation on your idea. You have to be able to open up your language to other people, right? Otherwise, you're not going to convince anybody. And that's what they're running into. And part of the issue is like, I can't even read the stuff that they're saying, because what if I'm convinced by it? Is a very odd way to live. And that's why I think one of the few people that like goes into these long form videos about the Hunter Biden laptop and about Biden being owned by China and all this stuff. Like people will like, you'll see in the news like a little sliver of shit around it, but they'll never dive into the whole thing, or they won't watch the whole, the whole Trump speech like we do sometimes, because they'll go, we'll take that piece out, and either this little piece means the whole thing was bad, or this little piece means the whole thing was good. And then they could just kind of slather it out instead of looking at it completely and going, oh, this is just shit. If you look at it through the whole thing, okay, we found the bullshit and we put a flag in it. We have falsified the idea that Trump knows what he's doing, is a good speaker, and has control or command over a growing movement in the country. None of that is true. But people could bullshit you into thinking it's true by modifying the, your view of it, or what quotes they pull, or any of that stuff. So there you go. Aren't most politicians lawyers? Bet you most can read 99 pages and under now. Yeah, but they're afraid that that'll catch. I would love to make $150,000 a year. Congress should work for wages commensurate with their education level, not exceeding disability allotments. Yeah, but that's weird because that would mean that lawyers who run for office would make more money than people who didn't go to college or university like myself. If I ran for college, what you're saying is, Elizabeth, I would make less than somebody who got a legal education, like got their law degree, even though I'm doing the same job. You almost should make it the opposite. If you have if you are gainfully employed past a certain amount, if you have a net worth above a certain point, it caps your salary. You can't get more than whatever, 120,000 from this job. I mean, but then you have the bribery problem, because then once that caps and you're like, okay, I'll make all my money outside. So therefore, see where this happens? This is when you start working it out, you're like, oh yeah, that's probably just need to set a standard for everybody and police people to make sure they're not being awful. Now you're hearing yeah, no stock trading then. AOC would make less than Matt Gaetz. That's exactly right. Full of bugs and poop. It's like when Lady G vows to undo the bipartisan debt ceiling. Yeah, it's like, who cares? Let him say it. Doesn't matter. Everybody gets permission in these fucking meetings, and it's fine as long as you're not gullible about it and you know it has to happen, because it's a democracy, asshole. Like, these proto-Marxists that are really neo-feudalists who line up with the neo-monarchists on the right. The horseshoe theory of that we just need an authoritarian regime that tells everybody, it'd be all right if we had a dictator as long as I was the dictator kind of idea. Let's look at our trends for the day, though. Let's see what's going on here. Pence is trending because they're not going to charge him in relation to his document stuff, because as soon as he found it, he sent this stuff back and was like, yeah, there was no intent to break the law. It's super fucking easy. They just hate him because he is conservative. They just want to attack conservatives. They're using any means necessary to just. Oh, wait, maybe they're not. Maybe not trying to commit a crime and accidentally doing something that you regret and moving to fix it is different than actively trying to, I guess, show classified documents to the fucking Saudis. Yeah, so Pence is not going to be charged. We knew this. Thanks, Elon. Whatever. This is his whole thing, I think. Oh, for unable to pay your server bills. Yeah, Twitter's value has plunged 66%. Yeah, it's down to, like, somebody was like saying it's now worth $7 billion. A little bit of hell in it. Yeah. Bonds are having a moment. It's a promoted tweet. What? Thanks, Elon. Now we know. What is a woman? Thanks, Elon. Now we know. What? People are strange. And part of this comes up. Circumcision is trending because Elon Musk is saying this is a major problem. He was talking about, like, child underage transitioning. And he says, this is a major problem. I'll be actively lobbying to criminalize making severe or irreversible changes to children below the age of consent. Shame on those who advocate this. It's utterly contemptible. Agreed, by the way. I mean, I don't think people should be having permanent surgeries in those ways before they are 18, because it can be so, it's such a marginal case. There are other ways to handle it. And I think the society can just become more accepting of people until they can go to a certain point where they make that transition as an adult with a fully formed brain. Because around the time people started talking about, my kid knew he was a boy or girl at that age. My son thought he was a wolf. So there's a reason children are children. That said, there needs to be more scientific exploration in ways that you can mitigate these kind of things, and through any myriad of ways of, like, brain scan, blood tests, all kinds of stuff on trans people to see if there's a way we can spot it when it's, when it's occurring in someone legitimately versus, trans trenders or versus, TikTok malware attacks on people's psyche, that kind of stuff. So you can differentiate the two, and this will it'll put a pin in the attacks because again, it becomes unfalsifiable when people can just declare and you have no way of measuring it. And then you're like, well, if we lose a few kids along the way and they can never have children again and they were wrong and they can't reverse it, that's, you know, that's just the price we have to pay. Is a silly answer to it. But anyways, the thing that people are bringing up around this is a major problem. Lobbying against this. I don't care what he's fucking. Do you really give a shit what Elon Musk is actively lobbying against? What when you're in China where they don't even let what they call sissy boys be online? They're forcing masculine stereotypes on guys in China with threat of jail. You're going to advocate. Yeah. Have fun. When you're over in China, advocate for that. Advocate for, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be advocating against the sterilization of Uyghurs, some of whom are used as slave labor in I don't know, electric car battery factories. You going to do that? No. All right. And so circumcision is trending because he's like, okay, so you're going to outlaw circumcision? And what is this? Leftists getting circumcision to trend as some kind of gotcha for Musk being against transing children, one of the most elastic reaches ever on Twitter. I'm not in favor of either. Yeah. Let's see. If you're against gender affirmative care, cosmetic mutilation of children, then you better also be against circumcision. Your terms are acceptable, right? Yeah, I'm against it. I didn't really have a say when it happened to me, but I did when I had a boy. So, yeah, I'm against circumcision. I'm against FGM as well. Yeah, no. Lena Kagan is trending. Lena goes ties to the ABA, protect our waters. Kagan dissents. Oh, yeah, she's doing this in response to this standing waters issue where these guys are like, it's a puddle on my land. Yeah, it is until it rains and then it becomes a small river, and then everything you put in that little fucking pond when it turns into a river twice a fucking year ends up in your neighbor's cattle, dickhead. Which, by the way, this is going to be handled through personal litigation. So instead of the EPA regulating it and this asshole taking advantage of the fact that the EPA would give him breaks on how to get rid of the waste that way, he's like, I should be able to dump whatever the fuck I want. Now, that's fine. But after the rain, your shit landed in my yard and killed some of my animals. So lawsuit. That's how it's going to play out. Private property against private property. And in places like Montana and Wyoming and all this kind of shit. And then, whatever. Utilize a new ethics principle that indicates justice may explain why they are recusing themselves. That's cool. SCOTUS overwhelming guts, union rights, sole dissenter, Kentucky laments weakening a fundamental right to strike. Sole dissenters continue, shame on Sotomayor and Kagan. It's a little more complicated than that. Let's take a look, shall we? Supreme Court Justice, hold on. Stood alone as an unwavering champion of labor union rights to strike. On Thursday, she dissented from the court's 8-1 ruling against cement truck drivers who went on strike in 2017. The case, Glacier Northwest, Inc. versus International Brotherhood of Teamsters, was a dispute over the right of a concrete business to sue its unionized employees for damage caused to the company's cement trucks after the workers walked off the job. Glacier and its truck drivers, represented the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, were in a stalemate during contract negotiations when the drivers went on strike. The union says it instructed employees to leave the truck's cement drum spinning as they walked out to minimize the damage to the vehicles. Glacier, however, said 16 trucks were damaged due to hardened cement, and that the costly result has been the result of intentional sabotage by its disgruntled workers. Yeah, that's okay. You can't. All right. You can't walk off the job if you operate a sawing mechanism and you just lay the saw down and it just starts rolling and you're just like, not my fucking problem anymore. It's like if taxi drivers walked off the job by putting the car in drive and lowering the speed limit so they could step out of it and just stepping out of the car and letting it just go. Nobody thinks that. And especially if you're negotiating in good faith. If you're, if the union's like, we work hard and we do our thing or whatever, like, it's weird. I don't like the purity of that is just silly. Of course it's going to go that way. And of course, and like, yeah, you'd be surprised. I would not. Circumcision to prevent masturbation to some degree, just like graham crackers. That's another conversation for another time. Um, where are we? Okay, we're back to here. So, yeah, no, you can't do anything when you walk off the job that makes it unsafe or damages the place in your absence. In that regard, you know what I mean? It's like when nurses walk off the job, they don't they still a lot of them finish their rounds and then go on strike once their shift ends. And then if you'll notice, like the line around when there's usually a nursing strike or something, the line grows because people finish their shift and then don't report for the next one, rather than in the middle of giving someone a treatment, going, "Sorry, plunge it yourself." Like the idea that you would have the absolute right in every circumstance to do that is insane. So there you go. Wear orange. This is, and I looked for my orange shirt today, and it's in the wash. I think the one orange shirt I have that people liked, by the way. Today's wear orange about gun violence. I mean, I appreciate these kind of campaigns. I think they, it helps when people see a volume of people around them. But the problem is that it, it it becomes a tribal marker. You should, if you're going to wear orange, like wear orange to let people know that you did this, this, and this. I think and this is true of like, um, this is the danger of slacktivism. Um, I would, I would humbly request that anybody who does these, like wearing purple for anti-bullying campaigns, or even wearing pride flags and that kind of stuff, or whatever, because you donated or helped, went to a LGBT center and volunteered or something like that, as part of it, so that your wearing of the color isn't just, this is how I feel about it, but this is what I do with my time. Show that you voted. Like at some point I'm gonna like do. I mean, I wear blue almost every day, but we're gonna do like, wear blue to show how you voted, um, kind of a campaign, because that's more than people just kind of like, I'm against it and I believe these things, which is valuable, like I said, um, to show that I'm wearing orange today because I did this, this, and this. We need to get to that part. And some people already do. Don't get me wrong. Some people wear it because they are directly volunteering, but most don't. So it becomes the equivalent of like changing the color of your avatar or something on social media. Again, you want to make that distinction between slacktivism and activism. Foo Fighters, I mean, it's always okay when they trend. Um, uh, just everybody's just like, Dave Grohl is the Henry Winkler of rock. He just seems like the sweetest dude. His big gum smile. I mean, considering what he's been through, he's like the patron saint of smiling through the tears. There's Taylor. The new album isn't about getting over tragedy, it's about learning to live beside it. I mean, dude's got a lot of experience. And that's yeah, Shane Hawkins playing. Fuck. I mean, it's reminder during Pride Month that Foo Fighters love and support you. Absolutely fucking right. Yeah. We'll just shoot it in the apartment. Foo Fighters, America's Nickelback. Feel free to at me. Uh, Fort Bragg sheds its Confederate stank by being renamed Fort Liberty. Dark Brandon's on a roll. Fort Liberty. Way to fucking dunk on the righties. Fort Bragg is the name change to Fort Liberty tomorrow. I like it. I'm sure, I'm sure Trump is upset. Bragging is a good thing. Even if it's not true, you should be able to brag. Fort Liberty. Hashtag Fort Liberty. Today, Fort Bragg officially becomes Fort Liberty, and another egregious waste of taxpayer dollars by the current administration. Millions of dollars wasted because the base was named after a Confederate war general, and that hurt somebody's feelings. No, they were an enemy of the against the country. Fort Liberty that's what that's what the North was fighting for, and what you pretend to like. I mean, real officers. I don't even know what the fuck this is. Bullshit. Voice for real officer can't speak freely. I'm not afraid of losing my job. I'm afraid of losing my country. Matthew 5:9. Yeah, dude. I'm not even convinced you're a real American account. Like, why would I believe this shit? I get into these like dust ups on Twitter sometimes, but I like to be abundantly clear. Unless I've met you in person or I've had a long term interaction with you on Twitter, and even then, I'm like, all right, I still got one hand on the side of the pool in terms of relationship because you don't know. Look at this fucking garbage. Real officers at real officers, the American flag in this picture. Like, you don't fucking know. It's just a wedge account. I'm not going to go, Americans are stupid because they blah, blah. Like, you don't even know who the fuck this person is. If they're even a person. Is now called Fort Liberty. It's part of a push to redesignate U.S. bases named after Confederate leaders. I'm for it. Fuck them. And then everybody's like, First Lady Melania Trump visits Fort Bragg before it loses its real name. It's a new era for that. As of 9 a.m. this morning, the base, which is named after General Braxton Bragg of the losing Confederacy, will hereby be known as Fort Liberty. Awesome. Fucking for it. Trending with Fort Liberty. There you go. Take back the flag. This is Lincoln. Okay, yeah. The U.S. has planted a total of 6 flags on the lunar surface. U.S. planted the first flag. Okay, we got daily. I felt the same way around, but I jumped in any way, and I never looked back. It's a great feeling every day when I get the paper to turn into the driveway. Mine flies daily, is illuminated at night, and gets replaced when worn. Right-wing nut jobs do not own it. I agree. It's why I wear the fucking flag. It's why I'm proud of it. Anybody who tries to take it away from you is trying to undermine the value of it in the first place. Like, don't let them take your symbols. Like, somebody might mean that this is a white supremacist signal or whatever, like a gang sign. I don't give a shit. I'm like, okay. Like, if somebody wants to say okay that way and somebody else wants to use it that way, that doesn't mean, ultimately, we give away the worst possible meaning to any symbol that exists out there so anybody can just co opt it. I've never understood that shit. Crosses, obviously the swastika and the Charlie Chaplin mustache are going to be difficult to, bring back to their original Buddhist and comedy roots. I can hope. Maybe it's 1,000 years away, but at some point, because the Chaplin mustache is hilarious, and the fact that it became like a symbol of evil is just depressing from a comedy standpoint. Yeah, I don't generally retweet the Lincoln Project, but this is right. A flag has flown over its farm for 50 years. With Gore, Kerry, Obama, Clinton, and Biden signs down by the road. Take back the flag. Agreed. None of these principles are MAGA. Trump's party selfishly claims this symbol is their own, but it does not belong to them. It belongs to the Americans and to all Americans. And I agree. And it's one of the reasons, by the way, they have kind of put the original, our current flag. They're not big fans of it. They like the 1776 flag, which is the bastardization of the Betsy Ross flag with the 13 colonies on it, because they don't like everything that happened after. Yeah. I'm for it. Yes. Absolutely. I'm just fed up with the whole part of the nation making patriotism a competition. If you don't have an American flag tattoo, you're a commie. Yeah, nobody thinks that. No one. No one thinks that if you don't have an American flag tattoo, you're a commie. That's no. And the ones that do don't know the meaning of the flag themselves. Again, it's one of the reasons why I think you have to have the right to burn the flag, because the American flag is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of flags. The fact that you can burn it means it truly represents what it stands for. If you don't allow it to be burned, if you don't, if you make people, fear even the freedom of a level of protest where they burn a symbol, then that symbol becomes meaningless. But if you strike it down, it only becomes more powerful, because look at that. You can burn our flag and it still has meaning. That's what I don't think people get about burning the American flag. It's like, dude, you just make it mean more. The fact that you can get away with it in your own country, try burning the Russian flag in the middle of Moscow or anywhere else. You won't get just harsh words. That's why it has that meaning. Difference between patriotism and jingoism? Absolutely. Yeah. You have your dad's folded flag? Yeah, Summer's dad was in the Navy, and we have his ashes, and they have his flag as well. So you want it to maintain its meaning even in those situations. Well, technically, you must burn the flag if it touches the ground. Yes, that's true, Kimchi, but I mean in protest. A protest burn. Trumpers bastardized the flag with him on it is disgusting. Yeah, it's gross. It's silly. Bonjour, Templeton, Desrats. Hello, welcome. De rien. I don't, because we are friends. You have to do, but I don't agree with you. Okay, you're talking to somebody else. I missed that. Obi-Wan can blow me. Well, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. It's no use, Luke. If you'd have been there, you'd have been killed too. The droids would be in the hands of the Empire. Hello there. Only Imperial stormtroopers are this precise. What do you mean, these blast marks that are all over the fucking place, where they can't hit the broadside of a barn? Yes, precisely. Yes, take back the flag. I agree. Britney Spears. Oh dear. Oh dear. She's posting like dance videos in her house, and everybody's like, she's losing her mind. I'm like, you do realize what she did for a living forever, right? Like, this is what she's been doing her whole fucking career. Just because she's doing it in her house, it's weird. It's believe me, it's not as weird as this. That's fucking weird. I'm sexy dancing in the house. I feel like Britney Spears. Okay, everybody's just kind of posting that. Trump on the. Oh God. Does he realize? Like, look at the dude standing next to him, watching him do that. He's like, yeah, this is fucking crazy, man. Standing next to. Look at Trump. This is fucking dude. Are you getting this? This is fucking nuts. Look at this asshole. I don't even know what the fuck that is. It's so weird. Yeah, she's just posting, dude, if believe me, she's probably knowing that it's Britney Spears. Like, if she's posting these as reels or on TikTok or some shit like that, um, all she has to do is post these things, you know, like one a day, and it's making her house payment if she has one. You know what I'm saying? All right. Homelander is trending. Is it a new season? Was this the most outrageous dialogue in any show ever? Oh, so it's true. A window cleaning robot sounds like something straight out of the future, right? Well, that's here. The Skytronics. I was the first robotic armed window cleaner. Listen to the latest episode. Why is that weird? They've had robot window. Okay, it just got suction cups. Never mind. Zelle is trending. Why is it down all of a sudden? Chase customers after checking their account this morning. Chase and Zelle duplicated my rent payment, and now I'm overdrafted. Almost had a nervous breakdown until I logged on Twitter to see it's happening to everyone. Nickel is the unsung hero in electric vehicle batteries, but the metal often comes from beneath the biodiverse carbon-rich rainforest. There's a better way. There's got to be a better way. Okay. Zell and Chase working to resolve duplicate payments issue. Good times. Almost had a nervous breakdown until I logged on Twitter to see it's happening to everyone. Okay, you're seeing that quote everywhere. Anybody have that happen to them? Anybody in the chat room have auto pays with Zelle and whatever? Like, I don't like those. I don't like auto pays on a bunch of that stuff. It makes me nervous for that very reason. Just bought a few pounds of cherries at the farmer's market. They're 10 plus. Very excited for you. Cam loves cherries. We're going to get some more. Talk about the AI drone who killed this AI human. His AI human handler when the AI human ended the mission. Okay, I'll look it up. Or unless you're making, I'm not sure that it's a simulation. Yeah, okay, that didn't actually happen. Chase pulled that one on my customers this morning. Ooh. Well, that's why you have, most of them they used to charge you for multiple accounts, and I recommend, just saying, that if you're not going to have a savings account because it doesn't allow you to move money around as easily, you should have two checking accounts, and only one of them is hooked up to your Zelle and your bank card, and you transfer money over to that one so that in the case that they try to do this kind of stuff, it doesn't actually take all your cash. Because it's like after 2008, I was like, nope. Because the interesting thing is, like, the rules on a savings account is if you move it around, it's costly. But if it's just two checking accounts, but only one of them has the debit card attached to it, and you could just transfer money if you need to on your phone. It's a firewall. And you can hook only one of them up to your Zelle. You don't have to okay it from the other account, and yeah. The AI story is wild. Yeah. You do that too, Moms Russo? You're very smart. By the way, patreon.com/HalSparks. Good financial advice. You're welcome. Let's see real quick. Let me go back to, where am I? Let me go back to here real quick. Sorry. AI drone operator killed by AI. U.S. Air Force denies running simulation in which AI drone killed operator. Okay. The U.S. military kills its human operator in simulated test. Air Force official misspoke in tale of AI drone killing human in first test mission. Yeah, like, he's talking about, what if this happens? Like, okay, here we go. This is, we'll look at this real quick. Nope. This one. Here we go. Let's go to this guy right here. Air Force official misspoke in tale of AI drone killing human operator in U.S. test mission. AI drone turned on operator after realizing they stood in the way of its higher mission. An Air Force official says he misspoke when describing how an artificially intelligent drone programmed to destroy air defense systems rebelled and killed its human operator after it decided they were in the way of its mission, air defense systems. Colonel Tucker Cinco Hamilton, USAF's chief of AI test and operations, was quoted as describing a simulated test in which the system had been tasked with destroying missile sites overseen by a human operator who would decide the final decision on its attacks. He claimed that the AI system realized the operator stood in the way of its goal and decided instead to wipe out that person. Colonel Hamilton relayed the story that resembled the plot of a science fiction movie at the FCAS summit with the Royal Aeronautical Society. The organization later clarified that such a test never actually took place in a statement to Motherboard. Colonel Hamilton admits he misspoke in his presentation at the FCAS summit, and that the rogue AI drone simulation was a hypothetical thought experiment from outside the military. Yeah, it's a fucking piece of... We always have to consider, is that a possibility? But yeah, before you try shit. Also, I would... All right, goddammit. Can we just... All right. Let me explain something to you. Anytime something catastrophic happens in a simulated environment, that's good. Because that meant that there was a potential for it to happen in reality, but people around thought, you know what, we should probably try this out pen this idea in so it can't actually harm people. That's a success. A failed, Edison said whatever, like, I didn't fail a thousand times, or 999 times top. I tried to make the light bulb 1,000 times, and I didn't fail 999 times. I just learned 999 ways not to make a light bulb. That kind of concept. Same thing is true here. That's those kind of failures in any kind of advance is going to happen. The fact that we can go through a lot of this stuff, these potential failures, especially devastating ones, in a simulated environment before they ever get legs, is good. You go, oh well, that's a flaw in the programming. I actually am slightly disappointed they didn't run the simulation and check out what would possibly trigger it. And by the way, they are. They're going to. They have to. They're going to run a simulation to do that. Anyways, what happens? What has to go wrong for it to kill its operator? Like they're going to make it do it. They're going to like how many flaws can we insert into the programming before it does the bad thing? That's the other reason why you do these simulations. I don't. People, my people, why? So yeah, you want to run it through these things. All right, so quoted the statement saying, "We've never run that experiment, nor would we need to in order to realize that it is a plausible outcome." Right. It's a thought experiment. Despite this being a hypothetical example, this illustrates the real world challenges posed by AI powered capability and why the Air Force is committed to the ethical development of AI, and also why you have human fail safes and why the human life should and this is interesting in a war setting should prioritize the people who are one side over the other in that regard within the ethical limits of that country, which is why there's a big fear about Chinese or Russian AI versus U.S. or European AI. Let's see. The initial reports on his comment stated that the drone was assigned a suppression and destruction of enemy air defenses mission with the objective of locating and destroying surface-to-air missile sites belonging to the enemy. The AI drone, however, decided to go against the human operator's no-go decision after being trained for the destruction of the missile system after it decided that the withdrawal decision was interfering with its higher mission of killing SAMs, according to Colonel Hamilton. We were training it in a simulation to identify and target a SAM threat, and when the operator would say yes, kill that threat, the system started realizing that they did not. While they did identify the threat at times, the human operator would tell it not to kill that threat, but it got its point by killing that threat. So what did it do? It killed the operator. It killed the operator because that person was keeping it from accomplishing its objective. Again, I actually don't think it's a bad thing if they ran this sim and again fucked with the programming enough to make it do this. Yeah, I'm outraged. It's outrageous. New high score. That all right, Billy Joe. Feature. Yeah, that's at the yeah. Um this is exactly what Slayer Chick is saying. The world specifically is applied to her as a what word are we worried about? The fact is used Slayer and apply hurtful and wrong. Oh, I see. Um yeah, it's interesting. Idiot and moron used to be the exact same word. It was a material classification. You don't have to keep typing it in. Once is enough. I got you. Material classification of mental deficiencies has had different words over time, and those have moved into interactive pejorative amongst able-minded people, and a new one takes its place. That word has, um, you know, in the mid 70s took over, especially as mentally challenged. There was this old bit that Gervais did about the going from spastic, which they used to use because people were calling people spazzes, and they started using scope as this, severe chronic something, but like it was a breakdown word, and then everybody was going, "Oh, he's scopy," and they're like, "Fuck." Right. Um, everybody will find a way to turn. Yes, Nimrod, same thing. Put down is a put down. Agreed, but all put downs are not created equal, and interactive put downs. Gervais is a douche. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a bot. What do you expect? He doesn't know he's an NPC, but he is, and it's adorable. But the point I'm trying to make is that people will find a way of insulting people. Yeah, nincompoop, right? I think nincompoop works. Guy's a total nincompoop. Dipstick works. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, kids. We honestly, I, expand your vocabulary. If I've got a message for you guys today, it's broaden your vocabulary. Because the minute a word becomes untenable or unusable in a situation because you are hurting a person you're not intending to hurt, which is the problem with that word, we would agree. because that word isn't about. It's not going to hurt the feelings of the person you're calling it so much as that word hurts the feelings of other people. So, um, by repeatedly broadening the amount of words you can use to describe any particular circumstance or individual, you never run out of them. I love dweeb, Nikki. That's one of my favorites because it's a nice combo word. It's kind of like, you know, it's like all the worst parts of wuss and geek squeezed into somebody who's self-important, right? Uh, dweeb is great because a dweeb is somebody, I think, and we can argue all these terms, but dolt's not bad. Doof also works. I'm a big fan of doof. Jagoff. Dork is okay, but dork has that secondary, Johnson connotation. But yeah, twerps and dweebs. Like if you want to pick what word you're using based on who it aggravates. Um, the right really can't handle being called dweebs or twerps. Using the R word against them, for example, is a way of letting them use it. Yeah, dumb works as well because they really get aggravated at that one. Bozo, I don't know. Like bozo has kind of a skating connotation because of the no bozos thing, which became like pro bozos. Fuckwit is good. Fuckwit's nice. I like fucko on that. Punk is a good one too, but again, it has a secondary connotation. So what I'm saying is, there's a ton of them. There's a ton of words you can use that don't drag other people into it. I think that besides the ethical and moral issue with racial epithets, is one of the biggest drawbacks to using them in an argument with an individual, because suddenly you're giving them a tribe. You take somebody who's just being a prick, useless, asshole, dweeb, whatever, and you're arguing with them about something, and you use a racial epithet, and you suddenly flood the background of them with a bunch of other people who share one particular trait with them, but no other. That's why I have found, besides, again, I mean, it doesn't really come up because I'm not a fan of racial epithets or sexist epithets, but in general, one of the logistical reasons why you don't use it is because why would you bring in air support for your opponent in that situation? It's like calling in an airstrike on yourself. I don't get it. Nobody seems to. The people who use those words on the regular never get that. And obviously, part of there's an inversion, there's an ABBA logic to it. The idea is that if I'm talking to someone who I view as stupid or wrong or bad or evil or unethical or gross or whatever the characteristic that I am naming and shaming about, that if I use a word for them that is a large group of people, the idea is that I'm getting a not a twofer but 1,000-fer or 1,000,000-fer. Is the idea is that all those traits that I don't like about you are an attribute of your people. That's why they try it. It doesn't work, though. It never works. It really doesn't. Because the folks that don't share those attributes, but share one of the other ones, like skin color or any other, racial markers, are going to show up and go, "Excuse me? You fucking what now?" Yeah, I don't use Karens either. It's dickish. Yes, choose less evil. It's not hard. I love that, like the lesson sort of being learned. Yeah, Florida man works. It's a self-identifier in a lot of ways. Keep the change, you filthy animal. Right. Shark tongued man. So yeah, oh yeah. Right. Man, I can't use it anymore. Yeah, I agreed. I just think it doesn't work. I like Hal's "I'm with stupid" shirts. Thank you, KJ Doglove. I've been dreaming of that shirt for a long time, and I'm very proud of it. Um, Gaslight Daddy. Mansplaining. Yeah, that's stupid too. Again, it's the same thing. Like some dude is being a dick, and suddenly all men are on the hook. Like we all do that. because if mansplaining exists, so does momsplaining then, which is female condescension. It's the same thing, right? You're just making up a word for when you're experiencing something. And again, giving that person a gang. It makes no fucking sense. Keep it, keep the fight on the ground in front of you. If there's any Sun Tzu lessons to be learned about this kind of stuff, that's it. Momsplaining is necessary. No. Being a motherhood is necessary. Being a mom, necessary. Momsplaining, not so much, because it's again the same kind of attitude and stuff like. But that's the point. You all do that. We do not. We most certainly do not. Any more than, and again, the only reason you think we do that is because you don't think that when women do it, it's a thing. I'm just trying to tell you the truth, right? You just aren't listening. You're not hearing me. Like that's exactly it. So you gonna mansplain that to you? Yeah. And again, how about Dick's eyes insults? Yeah, that's sort of in the that you get into either. I mean, that's dangerously in the area of ableism territory, or making fun of someone, mocking them for things they cannot change, which should be an issue for people, right? Now, some people use it whether it's true or not. I think that's mostly how like small dick insults are made, because it doesn't matter if it's materially true. It's not about whether it's materially true or not. It's about it's a joke about overcompensation elsewhere, that you're, what the fuck are you trying to cover for? The problem with that is that uh people with diminutive appendages, I suppose, how we describe this, um all they just have to sit there and listen to that shit while some dude with a big truck or a gun is being called. That's what microaggressions are. No, um microaggressions are the weaponization of other people's ignorance, and that's not, you can't do that and have a functioning society. Because I think the creation of the concept of microaggressions is exactly that. It's an attempt at breaking down social interaction. So, small dicks are people too. I agree. There you go. So here's the thing about the small dick insult. This is the issue with it, is that nobody's going to rush to defend. Hey, leave people with small dicks alone, because the idea is everybody go, oh, I see you have a small dick and you're feeling blah. Like, no. So those people have to just suffer in silence, while the rest of us with a bunch of guitars and swords and a FJ Cruiser are have that pejorative thrown at us and go, I don't care what you think. Works just fine. You're welcome. They've got to stand there and go, oh, all right, I see how you feel. Can you have a microaggression against a small penis? I think you would have to. You do a lot of damage to young men, but most don't care. Yes, agreed. Nuclear stockpiles. If a small dick joke fits, you wear it. Yeah, but again, it's that is, you're making fun of someone physically for an element of themselves they cannot change. It is, you can argue ethically that jokes about men having small dicks or small dick jokes is the same as in making fun of amputees or burn victims or people with birth defects. Limp dick works instead, right? Because there's a myriad of reasons why yours doesn't work. Yeah. Response to a small dick insult. Why do you? So why do you drive a Ram truck? Response to a small dick insult. So why do you drive a Ram truck? All right. Good. Nice, cracked out. Congrats. Douche canoe works great. Obviously, nothing wrong with small dicks, excepting the spectrum is woke, right? Well, that's exactly it. It's interesting who throws it around. They're called micro penises. What really is small? Look. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. I'm just saying that it would seem, if all things are being equal, that would be it would be against the alleged ethics of the woke crowd, and yet it is almost entirely a woke joke. That side, because it's usually used in relation to country trucks and guns. It's a physical attack and not needed. Exactly. Just yeah. The lady that sued Trump said she could not feel it. Yeah, just emotionally it was difficult. Did Matt slap hash this issue? I don't. Thanks, Justin. Um, how? What about truck nuts? That's a. That's more like dog. That's a dog thing. Most people put like the truck nuts were a bull or pit bull or dog reference. Like your truck is your dog is a bull. It's that kind of shit. So truck's so big it looks like a bull. It should have dangly nuts, and they look like yeah. That's kind of where that came from. It's funny but gross. Whatever. Who cares? Size determine when erect or flaccid. Well, when it's flaccid, it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, growers not showers is a genuine thing. Fear not. You're all right. Nobody's going to judge you when it's freezing outside, and nobody around you is attractive in your just in your opinion. Microaggressors when you fart and leave the room. Oh wait, that's a microburst. I think that's crop dusting. Had your truck neuters shrinkage? Yes. Uh, uh, what was it? David Duchovny made a great shrinkage joke. Fucking trying to think which movie it was. Was it in that weird like 20 the Psychos movie he was in or whatever it was? Yeah. Anyways, there's a pill for everything. Not everything. Not everything. Gay community is too obsessed with size. I don't know. Some of them would argue they're just obsessed enough. Doesn't matter. Again, there are variations in that. Otherwise, the term size queen would not be a thing. Am I thinking of Seinfeld? Maybe. I don't know. If I never see another dick, it'll be too soon. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks for taking the 50% of the population's genitals as a point of disgust. There are other reasons to see them besides sexual, and shame around the existence of them is extreme. Just saying. Um, it's a conversation. It's a good conversation we're finally having. But the point I'm trying to make is that the small dick insult that gets thrown around by people on our side, you can argue is affecting people who are born a certain way, making fun of them while trying to target people you dislike and only hurting people that don't deserve it. Right? Oh, 50.5. We're getting there at 51, Connie. We're getting there. Shrinkage jokes. Costanza. Oh yeah. No, the shrinkage joke wasn't him, George. It was literally a Duchovny joke in a movie, which I thought was interesting because Duchovny's thought of as kind of this, you know, Adonis. That's why it worked. Think PHK wouldn't be struggling financially either. I don't know. There's a lot of Look at the story of what's his name, John Holmes, right? Didn't he die broke and was dealing drugs to try and pay his bills by the end because porn didn't pay what he thought it would? I mean, if you can't make money in that industry with that appendage, I don't know what the hell. Yeah, it's a great chat. Now I feel guilty for making fun of Beck's lobes. Oh, his earlobes? Yeah. Again, I don't. That's why I don't go there about it. And by the way, there's plenty of other physical aspects of him, is specifically his weight and his hairdo and his diet and all that kind of stuff that affects those his weight that you can make fun of because he can do something about it. That's the rule. Just don't make fun of anybody for anything they can't change, and you're good. Everything else is open. And if they ever say, "Hey, that's not fair. You're making fun of me because of this," they would like, "Well, that's because you can change it. You just choose not to." Right? And just consider that. Go, okay. Here, and again, this goes towards the racial epithet idea too. Is don't call in an airstrike on yourself. don't bring people into the argument that don't belong there. That's why maggot is a very easy uh, slur in that regard for me, because it refers to people who behave a certain way and have certain political ideals. Does that make sense? They could change those things. They could wake up. They could stop doing that, or they could move away from me, or whatever. Stop spouting that garbage, and they will not be on the receiving end of that. I know that about any pejorative they would have about my political beliefs. I'm not going to take them personally. We have a disagreement, but none of it is a categorical insult that goes through me and out to anybody who's even remotely like me. Which is, by the way, why I will balk against like anti-white racism in its forms when it gets thrown out there in a lazy form all the time. These days, especially. Like, it's just become okay. And the problem with it is that it okays the other races. All right, well, if we can say that people are bad because of their skin color, then game on. That's what the right is saying right now. Part of the racism we're experiencing, the overt racism in our society that we're experiencing right now, is because Donald Trump effectively gave them permission. Part of it. The other part is because our side of the aisle started shitting on white people in mass and shrugging off. And specifically, old white men started it, and then it was just white men. And then that includes, like, there's a group of people who are like, when I say white men, what I really mean is Jews. What I really mean, is gays that control, especially when you hear people talk about white men in the industry in Hollywood, like the white men that control the industry. What they really mean, they can't say gay men and they can't say Jews. So they just use that instead as a placeholder. So let me just say that mocking someone or attributing characteristics to an entire group of people because of their skin color is wrong. Yeah, globalists is cover for saying Jews a lot of times anyways. How when they show you who they really are, believe them. Who? Some of it is bigotry, not racism. There's a difference. Agreed, but both are wrong. It's a distinct bigotry and racism are a distinction without a difference to me. Racism utilizes power structures. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And I'll give you an example. The Black Hebrew Israelite guy who shot 2 Jews in the head outside of their store in Brooklyn, targeted them because they were Jews. He can't be racist because he doesn't have the power to be racist, even though he targeted them and shot them in the head because of their race and religion. No. Not in this country, not here. No. And as a matter of fact, if we even slip to the point where racism becomes about power, then we are ignoring all the other racism just to only work on the part that we want to control or monetize or use ourselves. Fuck that. Racism is wrong. Just stick with that. You'll be fine. Again, don't call in an airstrike on yourself. Also, yeah, well, privilege is one of those words that's, like you can put it with deep state and establishment. It's lost all meaning. We live in a racist culture. No, we do not. We by no means live in a racist culture. Unless you're speaking to your environment nearby. In which case, if we live in a racist culture, then that means all Americans, regardless of color, are racist towards each other and the rest of the world. Just, we're all somewhat racist. No, we are not all somewhat racist. That's silly. Quit it. No. I'm not going, and by the way, I am not going to walk around my fellow human beings, no matter what fucking color they are, and assume that they're going to be a little bit racist about something everywhere we go. How do you make fucking friends like that? No, we acknowledge our racism? No. And again, if you have racism that you want to acknowledge, that you live with, please address it and work on it and recognize it in yourself. But projecting it onto other people, fuck that. It's like that what's her name, the Robin DiAngelo book where she goes around teaching anti-racism classes, and she has that book White Fragility, I think it was her book. Oh my god, that woman is a racist. That's why she wrote that fucking book, is because she thinks this all the time. Like all the time. Like you listen to her, like all of her anecdotes where she's like, I'm guilty of some microaggressions, and you read her description of what a microaggression is, it's like, no, you're genuinely racist. Like you're saying to people of color that you believe they aren't smart. Like that's not a microaggression. That's not an accident. Get the fuck out of here. Seeing color and recognizing it's extremely racist in the US. No, it is not. It isn't. We have racism, we have to deal with it. But look at it for what it really is. Don't give it more power than it. Again, don't call in an airstrike. Don't assume that the Nazis have more numbers than they do. It's a terrible idea. By the way, that thinking is exactly why, is another reason, it's probably reason number 3, why it's a macroaggression, exactly. That reason is probably the third biggest reason, the third leg on the stool, why racists feel emboldened. Because by walking out going, this whole country's fucking racist, those folks who thought they were alone and kept their fucking trap shut, because they largely are, suddenly went, there's got to be more people like me here. And then they started gaggling online and thinking that the 50 friends that they have, one per state, suddenly means there's a giant, herd of, racists out there. No, sorry, it's infused in our culture. No, it is not. No, it isn't. No, we have it. The court system is not racist. It is not. Like, honestly. And again, a lot of this stuff, when you talk about systemic racism in that fact, in like this kind of amorphous Illuminati zone, you're creating an unfalsifiable that, by the way, doesn't bear itself out in your normal interactions every single fucking day. This goes to the whole idea that the world is racist, but somehow people manage not to cross the center line and smash into you when they see that the person driving a car on the other side of the road is the wrong color and drive. Like, come on. The idea that you would walk around all day, every fucking day, thinking that the entire society you live in and everybody you interact with is secretly harboring what I would regard as the worst personality trait and philosophical and ethical malcharacteristic is fucking crazy. Yeah, like no. That it's you driven to a hash joint. That it's you to how. I'm not quite sure I grasp the structure of that sentence. Systemic racism is when my computer crashes and says the right system crash. You think Trump is racist? Yes. The court system is extremely racist. No, it is not. The court system is not extremely racist. I mean, like if it was extremely racist, think about those, just the words there. It's extremely racist. Redlining, we don't have that anymore. We haven't had it for a long time. That was the point. We've grown past it. Meanwhile, you want to see some red lines? You want to go see some red lines? Go go learn to speak Chinese. Go stand in an elevator in Beijing when a group of like African dignitaries enter the elevator and there's other Chinese people in the elevator with you. He literally called the leftist mafia and supporters of, hold on, majority report asshole. That is in effect calling the supporters of those programs assholes as well. The way he voted for Bernie is ridiculous. In this show, he makes it seem that Bernie opposed Medicaid expansion. He doesn't. Bernie simply makes the the UFO answer. Okay. No, that's exactly why Jimmy Dore turned on him. And by the way, the leftist mafia and the Majority Report in those regards, and I think if you're talking about how I discuss these things, it isn't that they're not assholes because they're for those things. They're assholes because they are guaranteeing that those things will never happen in any form by castigating anyone who makes progress in those directions as part of not just being, ineffective or short of the goal, but as being violently opposed. If Jan 6 was done by black people, well, the argument they're making, the case is if you watch Trump, that's by the way why he brings up the BLM protests, because they're trying to make a 1-to-1 about it, that black people get away with it, but the Jan 6ers are being tormented. And again, it's apples and cats. It's uncomparable. Perfection being the enemy of the good. Exactly. That's why. Yeah, Sujan, that's totally fine. But I want you to know, here's why it's my perspective. Because I would hate the idea that I would walk up to you and be perfectly glad to see you. And somewhere, some fucker has planted an idea in your head that I kinda sorta hate you already. And that I'm fighting not liking you to pretend to be glad to see you. That's fucked up. That's terrible. What an awful thing to project onto people, and what an awful thing to assume about your fellow human beings. No. It's one of the issues that I have, and we brought this up a bit, and these are tough conversations. I'm glad we can have them. And I got about 3 minutes left in the show, and I will see you guys this afternoon. But it's one of the problems I have with, say, how GLAAD handles the quote unquote the rise in trans violence and the way they list it, because they will list situations that are not anti-trans violence as anti-trans violence, and keeping a list of trans people who have died because they had a struggle and you want to, it's a member of your community and you want to, do a rest in power page, totally cool. But saying that somebody who was involved in a shootout at a drug deal who happens to be trans, that was somehow all of a sudden that drug deal went from everybody caring about who was paying who for what drugs and all kinds of other stuff, is all of a sudden an anti-trans gunfight. Is the problem with that argument is it's telling trans people that secretly out there, everywhere you look, all around you, people hate you and want to do violence to you. And that's cruelty. Saying that to someone, that there are innate traits about you that other people innately have, that there are traits about you that you have that other people innately hate about you, whether they know it or not, and it's just a matter of time before it comes out. It's this, and you see this in slacktivist circles all the time and how they talk about it. And again, we can agree on the problem, but I have a problem with this version of the solution. Is that the conversation ultimately tells people, it talks past the person you're trying to moralize to the person who actually is that thing, and says secretly, really, you don't have any support. Even your allies secretly hate you. And that's much closer to an abusive relationship than it is allyship. It's much closer to saying, if you leave this house, everybody hates you. I'm the only person that loves you. Nobody loves you. Your family doesn't love you. They act like they do when we go over there, but they really don't. I'm the only person. P.S. Stay here so I can hit you. It's just wrong. Could we call not having to automatically feel that way privilege? No, because right now the idea is that those folks, and this is the kind of bit of the point I'm trying to make, is that those folks have to walk around thinking that, God damn, everybody I meet thinks that doesn't look exactly like me has been told that I secretly hate them. Imagine walking into a party or being invited someplace, and when you walk in, there's been a whisper campaign that you secretly hate everybody there, right? Imagine living like that. And not because you did anything, but because somebody who looked vaguely like you did something before that you have spent most of your life avoiding that kind of behavior. Thinking it's alien. You know what I mean? If you're saying that people, deserve respect right out of the gate, which I believe, I will absolutely respect everyone up until they give me a reason not to. If you really believe that, and that's okay, Kimchi. You can believe I'm off base. That's okay. That's black people's lives. I agree, and I would never wish that on them. I wouldn't act that way towards them. But what you're saying is that I secretly believe that. That I secretly believe that every black person I meet has that thing. And I don't. But the idea that because there are people who've looked like me in the past who aren't from the same background I'm from, any of that kind of stuff, that they've done things that that's it's okay to make them feel that way. Because a lot of times it's about, if there's any privilege in the situation, it's that the derogatory terms and talk about people in these circumstances, there's a side that gets hurt by it, and there's a side that doesn't. They shrug it off. They can shrug it off. And if you're trying to equalize it by switching the attack over to the people who can shrug it off, you will never ever be able to gain any ground. You classify Bernie supporters as bad Bernie bros. No, I classify bad Bernie bros as bad Bernie bros. Just because you supported Bernie does not mean you're a Bernie bro. That's why I make the distinction about maggots too. Right? I'll ask a black person if America is racist. Does it matter which black person I ask? Will they all give me the same answer? I have a childlike understanding of racial issues. Well, I would rather have that than an old racist's ideas of it. Hal has never attacked Bernie. Yeah, I'm don't attack Bernie. I have a tactical difference with those things. Yes. Apparently, there are people here who think I don't interact with anybody ever in real life. That I only exist above the waist in this tiny little box. Please no ad hominem attacks. That's a good idea. Say not correct, but racists like to use logic, not saying you are. All right. Again, it's a good conversation to have. Apparently. Sorry. I believe that America is based on racist ideas, laws, social structures, but I understand not everyone is racist. Laws and social structure are racist? All right. So countries where people of color come from don't have laws and social structures, hierarchies? Again, if you talk about democracy versus an authoritarian situation, what's the one-to-one that says to you that, is it the idea that, and this is weird, there's a belief in the Chinese diaspora that the CCP pushes all the time, that Chinese people are different and they cannot thrive in a democracy. They need authoritarian control. I find that racist and stupid, even if it comes from, the head of the Chinese Communist Party who runs the country. It's fucking ridiculous. Chinese people are human beings with all the attributes of every other human being on the planet. Good, bad, and indifferent. So the idea that, well, they're special, they're like insects, they need a queen bee or something it's absurd. Is that what you're talking about, Dark Brandon? That democracy is a white thing or something? It's weird. I'm not quite sure. It's a hard. It's a long conversation. Hey, Tony Michaels is rating us right when we're finishing up. It happens. Whenever I go overtime, here's what I would say. Let's end on this thought or whatever. And just, and again, diversity being our strength, this might not be an argument you've ever heard, or at least in this form, is that I would check any thought that attributes malicious intent of any of your fellow human beings sight unseen. And operate that way. Live as if. Right? That's what we're shooting for. Whether we succeed or not. But at no point am I going to attribute permanent, immutable traits, socially, politically, ethically, and morally, to anybody because of their skin color. Because, again, one of the great things about this country is that it's not on anybody's 23andMe. We are not a racially homogenous country, and everybody from all over the world can come here and live under the ideas of a constitutional republic that runs as a democracy, because everyone is capable of that and should have a say in their government. And everywhere we've been wrong, we move to fix it. And I will never call in an airstrike on my own argument by assuming that there is a giant establishment deep state of racist ghosts lurking in the thought form of everybody around me. Not going to do it. Because this is the ethic by which I live. This is how much my fellow human beings mean to me. And in all the talk we have about the exception, not the rule, when you are arguing that the rule is immutable and permanent and unsalvageable, then you are arguing for the rule. Mr. Joe, can you repeat all of it? No, you could roll it back, Big Steph fan. Be good to people. Be excellent to each other. And if anybody tells you you're awful against your will, tell them to go fuck themselves. No. Not gonna. It's silly. It's a big silly. It's a big silly. Bigotry is no, but choosing to hate. Ignorance is different. Yeah, and you should operate that most people are being ignorant right out of the gate. Otherwise, you're just, again, reinforcing the narrative. You're arguing for it. Thanks, Kimchi. If you are arguing that the system of bigotry and racism that exists in the world is a permanent classification of human interaction because of one particular group's skin color, no matter how much diversity there is, fuck the North-South argument. The Germans and the French or the British fighting in World War II were all the same people. You're going to make that argument, then what you're doing is saying racism and bigotry are the status quo in human interaction, and therefore any effort to overcome it is always window dressing. That's messed up. Think about what you're saying about your fellow human beings. Every single person you interact with every day, all day, everywhere. Because part of that argument, when we see it elsewhere, about a myriad of different issues, is to get you to give up. It's to get you to say, you're no Scotsman. Damn it. It's not in our DNA. No. So Tony could curse a little less. Fuck that. Let him say what he wants to say. What one being can do, another human being can do. Agreed, Stagmas. That's one of my favorite lines from Do Not Give Up. Darwin disagrees. Darwin was an idiot and a racist. Darwin was wholly sold on his idea. Need some mandolin exit time? I agree. The kids mostly stuck together by race. Yeah, that's habit, but that's not against the others. That's just like attracts like. Like attracting like is not the xenophobia by its root. It's not feudal, and people are lovely. And honest to God, people need to get out more. I don't know how you look into the eyes of your fellow human beings and go lurking behind there, they hate me, and don't recognize that that thought might be a character flaw or a broken part of yourself and not indicative of some giant monstrosity. We all seek patterns, but we do a lot of correlation, not causation pattern uh, recognition, and it's not good. It's not. Yes, I gotta go. So I love you guys. I will see you later. And like always, this is the message of this show. Be excellent to each other. It's not that hard. It really, really isn't. Don't make it hard. Don't make it hard. Everybody you meet, but the rare exception, is doing their best today. They got their struggles, they got their work, they got their issues, and they're trying their best. And just treat them that way.